Why are there actual governments holding on to so much Bitcoin? The United States officially is holding more Bitcoin than anyone else with 198,022. China has almost as much, 190,000 Bitcoin. This totals between the two of them about $45 billion. Then, of course, there's the UK with 64,000. But look, Ukraine has a ton of it. That makes sense because they need to get whatever funding they can, and cryptocurrency is one of the easiest and quickest to transfer. As no surprise to anyone, North Korea is also one of the top 10 holders of Bitcoin because how on earth can they possibly pay for anything, really? But have you noticed that Russia isn't on that list because there's no official claim for how much Bitcoin the government is holding? But maybe, just maybe, they're actually holding on to a lot more of it than even the United States and China. In fact, Russia has been accepting Bitcoin payments for its oil because of how heavily sanctioned the country has been by the United States and the rest of the West. But it's not just the Russian government that is heavily dependent on Bitcoin. Actual Russians are doing the same, but instead of buying oil or selling it, they're transferring that Bitcoin into stable coins and they're getting their hands on dollars. Now, say what you will, this makes any kind of trade and transaction very expensive for the Russian government and the Russian population, but still, they are able to skirt the traditional payment networks and the banking system in order to conduct business. And this spits in all the faces of the countless experts who in the early 2010s, even 2020, said that Bitcoin would turn to zero and that it was a useless asset when now it's being used by large governments. Now, if you're curious about how the governments of the United Kingdom, China, and the United States got their hands on all of this Bitcoin, well, they didn't buy it. They seized it. Unfortunately, Bitcoin and a bunch of other cryptocurrencies are used for a lot of illegal or illicit activities, and when any of these governments are able to hunker down and find the sources, they seize everything, including the cryptocurrencies. That's why these coffers are so high. And a lot of these seizures occurred when Bitcoin was under $1,000. So talk about the governments getting a huge return on investment. But they didn't just seize the cryptocurrencies or the drives, they also seized the mining technology. And I wonder, are these governments still mining Bitcoin even though it's not being reported? I mean, I would not be surprised if they were because you've seen the trends. Now, one of the great things about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is that they rely on blockchain technology, which means all of the information that's transacted and processed is immutable. It cannot be changed. And there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in circulation. And right now there's about, 18 to 19 million. Actually, it's closer to 20 million Bitcoin in circulation. And what makes this so significant is that unlike the dollar, there can't be more Bitcoin made to control the value. So no government could ever completely control Bitcoin. Maybe if the US or China gets most of the mining power or they manage to buy most of it, yes, they could manipulate the price, but it is nowhere near as manipulable as, let's say, again, the US dollar. Now, I don't think Bitcoin is going to revolutionize the world or replace any world currency. I mean, I used to think that maybe around 2018, 2019, but I came to my senses. I just look at it like any asset right now. It's done very, very well, better than most in the history of the planet, but who knows what the future will bring. I am the Geo Husar. If you found this post useful, give me a follow. Let's see some engagement. Thanks for watching.